In this video, I'm going to show you how to stuff amigurumi. So stuffing is really important because it determines the ultimate shape of your amigurumi. And you don't want to stuff it so tightly that it stretches too much, because then you'll create holes in the yarn and then you'll be able to see the white stuffing through the yarn. But also you don't want to stuff it too lightly, because then your amigurumi is going to look all sad and lumpy. So when you're stuffing, well, step one is, if you are putting safety eyes in it, put those safety eyes in first, because otherwise it's going to be quite difficult to navigate around all the stuffing to put your safety eyes in and lock them into place. And I'm going to show you two different ways to stuff. The first way I'm going to show you is my personal preferred way, which is to work in layers. So you can use any stuffing. This one is a brand called Polyfill, which happens to be one of the most popular ones. It's a polyester fill, and it's your personal preference. I think Polyfill says that what's great about them is that it creates a smoother look in the end. So what you need to do is create little thin layers, and then you're basically just going to stack all these layers on top of each other inside the piece, as opposed to what you may want to do, which is just stuff a giant piece in here. If you do it that way, you know, as you can see, just even this raw clump of polyfill, it's got all these divots in it and it has its own shape, and that's going to get reflected on the outside of your amigurumi. So you don't want that, and you want to control it. So that's why you're going to try to work in thin layers instead. So you just put it in here, rip off a little piece, create a thin layer, put it in, and then keep on working. Another common way to do this is to take not as thin a piece, stick it in, create a little hole in the middle, and that's where you would subsequently add more stuffing. So you'd be growing your piece from the inside out this way, hoping that this outer piece maintains the stuffing. I personally find the other way easier because I like to stuff my piece as I go. And if I work in layers like this, then I've got flexibility to modify the shape as I go, versus that second way I showed you, where you basically have to have almost all of it done so that you can create a well-shaped outer layer and then stuff the inner layer. Here's an example of an amigurumi that has too little stuffing. So if you press on it, you can see it just deflates and it gets deformed really easily. If you look inside, it's because I didn't put enough stuffing in there. So now let me show you what it looks like if I were to put too much stuffing in here. At some point it is going to feel kind of tough to keep on stuffing in there, and I've definitely hit that point. And maybe the lighting is not super clear, but see how I stuffed it to the point that all my yarn is now really taut and really stretched out. So now you can see all these holes, and for example here you can see right through it and see the stuffing inside. So this is too much stuffing. And yes, it's nice and round and retains its shape if I poke it, but the trade-off is now that you can actually see the stuffing inside of it. So we want to take some out to make it more ideal. And in the end of the day, it's a lot of guess and check and going by feel of the yarn that you're working with, and the feel of the shape that you're working with to create a shape that you actually like. So this is a bit healthier amount of stuffing, right? If I were to squish this, it retains its shape. It's got a pretty nice round shape overall, and the stitches still look fairly tight.